There we go. Now I'm live. All right, everybody. Well, we are, I'm going to give you a day 3 NFPA 70B, day 3 report. Day 4 report. What am I talking about? Day 3. Day 4. So today is Friday, and it is the last day. Yesterday was a very long day. We went from 9:30 in the morning until I think it was 7:30 last night, closer to 8 o'clock, because I cut my grass in the dark. Thank God my Kubota tractor has lights. That's all I got to say. So, point of discussion yesterday was... some key items, I think. Yesterday was day 4. So let's take a look at my notes. All right. I'll tell you how many public comments we got through. We got through 161 public comments. We made 65 second revisions and 4 committee second revisions. 161, that's a record for our week so far. And that's because we went till 7:30, almost 7:45 last night. All right, so we cleaned up the, remember we talked about the frequency table, chapter 10. We had discussions about the, not frequency, what do they call that? They call it chapter 10. They call it chapter 10. Where's it at? Chapter 10, not power quality. Maintenance intervals. So Haley brought back, so here was the concern. And remember my discussion yesterday. When you are performing, you in the later chapters, the chapter 11, 12, 13, 14, etc., say on molded case circuit breakers or power breakers or transformers, in those chapters we tell you what you need to do on a visual inspection. We tell you what you need to do for mechanical testing, electrical testing, lubrication, cleaning. Okay, so we go through those categories of work when it comes to, and tasks when it comes to maintenance on different equipment. But we don't tell you the frequency. That is handled by chapter 10. So when we were looking at, for example, receptacles and say, how often do you need to test a receptacle electrically, mechanically, all this stuff, the debate in those meetings, you have your industrial guys that say, wait a second, you realize how many of those I have in my plant? And it would take me a year just to get through 50% if you want me to do all of these tests on every single device every month or every year. So we came up with language in chapter 10 that I got to do a search. We came up with I think it was a very good compromise. So we went into the beginning of chapter 10 and we made a clause that, oh, it's right here, that basically says that, oh man, second draft. I must have zoomed in on this. Task group files. Okay, so what we did was we went into, sorry about that. We went into chapter 10 and we said, look, we want to give the owner the ability Hey, good morning, Nihad. We wanted to give the owner the ability to say, we can vary from the maintenance intervals in Chapter 10. And that was based upon risk. All right, so we had this discussion about the risk, and the comment that we made was that you could modify these if, for example, you sat down and said the risk of if something goes wrong with this specific receptacle, it's not going to, the risk is acceptable. I'll just leave it at that. Now, what is risk? Severity and likelihood. So that would mean that the severity and likelihood, should something go wrong with that piece of equipment, is acceptable. Now, who says what is acceptable? That's up to the owner. So that's where they ended up. I'm not saying that's what I agreed with, but I'm still leery about it. But that's where we're at. And I think just like anything, we say the code, Nihad, is like a fine wine. It gets better with time. So this at least gets consensus to some of the tests and whatnot that we have. And it gives us something to either love or hate, right? So, and then modify as we move forward. So that, I think, was a very important key to making sure that what we say you have to do on equipment, like this stuff behind me, later is we can get consensus on an agreement on. Because we found ourselves getting wrapped around the axle because what we were suggesting that you need to do, people were saying, no, I don't want to have to do that. And they weren't saying no because it doesn't have to be done. They were saying no because they didn't want to have to do it every month or every 6 months or every year, right? So they didn't like what was in Chapter 10 for the frequency of maintenance. So I think we came to a good compromise in that some of these tasks you can vary. Like if it said that you had to test, I don't know, you had to test every circuit breaker in your plant or every fuse in your plant for resistance, whatever the number would be. I'm just making stuff up at this point. And if you said, no, I don't want to have to do that. If you said, look, let's forget about the frequency, do you believe it needs to get done? They would say, yeah, I believe it needs to be done, but I don't believe it needs to be done every month or every 6 months. So then we went back into Chapter 10 to say, look, you can modify these and you have to document why, right? So you may say, those 15 and 20 amp breakers that are in my panel board, you're telling me here that I have to cycle that breaker every year. But it's in an air-conditioned room. It's in this, it's in that, it's in this. And the risk of something going wrong is really low. So you can say, look, for all of these reasons, I'm going to do it every 18 months instead of every 12 months. So we gave that ability in Chapter 10. And then Haley went through and we looked at all of the frequencies of maintenance and made our modifications, and bam, we got it done. And that secured a ton of public comments. So that was a good thing. But it was a point of contention because it does make sense that, that risk, I understand risk makes a difference, and the acceptance of risk makes a difference. And it falls on the shoulders of the owner who, if put on a witness stand, is going to have to defend their decision if something goes wrong. And then the other point that was made, that if work was going to be conducted on that equipment, and I'm not even going to go down that road. Anyway, All right, I'm looking at other big items. Oh, the other one is the definition of a low voltage power circuit breaker. We're arguing about that right now, and we're going to be talking about it today. But we took the definition. This is what's really cool. We took the definition from IEEE standards, and the people who are on those IEEE standards say that's a terrible definition. So I'm like, well, wait a second. This definition is in the IEEE books. So we're saying that it's not good, but that you could apply that exact same definition to a molded case circuit breaker, which I agree. So we're trying to come up with language that we can live by, that will help the user understand the difference between a low voltage power circuit breaker, an insulated case circuit breaker, and a molded case circuit breaker. That is going to be a fun discussion today. All right. What else did we do here? So added new line 11. I'm just looking for anything that I had indicated that whenever I have something that is controversial or something that's really cool where I learned something, I put a little star by it. So I don't have anything else. I could have swore there was another item, but I think I already highlighted that. I had a task group this morning starting at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, and we looked at the ground fault circuit interrupter and GFPE testing chapter. I think it's chapter 21. And I did have a star on that one. I think it should be 34.2. But we went through the GFCI and the fact that there is a special purpose GFCI, which I know, Nihad, that's right in your wheelhouse. So we added some testing for the special purpose GFCI, and we lumped it basically in with a regular GFCI. And Nihad, tell me if I'm wrong, but there should be a push to test button on those special purpose GFCIs because they follow 943C, which points you back to 943. So I know you are the expert in that. So I'd love for you to comment on that if you can. So there is a push to test. So is that how you test a special purpose GFCI? By pushing that test button? And we also had a discussion around ground fault protection of equipment. And we made some changes to those. And we had a discussion about the medium voltage testing. Ground fault protection of equipment for medium voltage applications is done via a relay. So that relay is covered in another chapter. So we did leave something in there. For the most part, there are some medium voltage breakers that may have a trip unit. So we left a lot of the material in this chapter, that chapter, but we also made some changes. So that's where we're at. I've got to jump on the other call. I really appreciate everybody who's watching this, and I apologize for being a little later this morning in going live to give you an update on what happened yesterday. But again, we went till 7:30, almost 8 o'clock last night. And this morning we started at 7:30 with a subtask group looking at ground fault circuit interrupters and GFPE so that we can bring that to the table for our discussion. And now I've got to jump off of here and get on that call. So thank you. I don't know that I will be able to go live tonight, and I am traveling tomorrow. So today's final report will not be until next week. Actually, I'm traveling all next week too. I may not be able to go live next week. I don't know. I might be able to go live impromptu. So check out my YouTube site. Remember to subscribe, hit that bell, and check the YouTube site, because if I go live from the road, I'm probably not going to go live on all channels. So you may not see me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, or Instagram. So, all right. Thank you. Stay safe. Remember, please stay healthy.